The one person who could play Victor Von Doom.
Oh, finally getting that Dr. Doom reveal.
New mask.
Is anyone else shocked by this? Yeah, me too. Let's talk about Robert Downey Jr.'s return to the MCU. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel and what I consider to be potentially the biggest news that we have received all year. Now, Comic-Con has been full of exciting news, from everything like Warner Brothers to DC Studios unveiling their new logo to The Boys spinoff and so much more. But I don't think anything could have prepared us for what Marvel had revealed. Now, we knew Marvel's panel was going to be hot, and it was potentially going to touch on things like Thunderbolts, which it did, and stuff like Captain America: Brave New World, which it did. But never in my million years would I ever have considered that Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man, was going to be returning to the MCU to play a villain. How this is going to work, I have no idea. Am I still stunned? Absolutely. Am I slightly disappointed, yet excited? Yes. Yes, I am. Let's talk about this. This article comes directly from Variety that I think touches on the situation very well and kind of, highlights some of the biggest stuff that happened from that night. It states that Robert Downey Jr. sets Marvel return as Dr. Doom in Avengers Doomsday. And off the jump, just from reading this title, I almost want to have it framed, because this is one of those moments that we're living in right now that we're going to look back on and say to ourselves, I can't believe that was real. Because right now it still feels too real to believe. Okay, anyway, moving on. So Robert Downey Jr. is set to return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Dr. Doom in a new Avengers film titled Avengers Doomsday, which obviously we know is a direct relation to them getting rid of the Kang storyline. Even before the whole Jonathan Major situation, I did feel like the Kang storyline was not pulling people in the way that I think Marvel was anticipating. It wasn't pulling people in the way that I think fans were anticipating or wanting. And it just felt like, coming off of that immense high that we got from Infinity War and Endgame, they were up against a tall task. And I think it takes a tall order or a tall actor or, a big name, I think, to generate even more hype potentially than what was generated with Infinity War and that whole, decade long buildup that led to Endgame. So, I just don't feel like what they were doing with Kang was really pulling people in. And again, this is even before the whole Jonathan Major situation. Now, after that happened and news was just dropping like bombs that they were dropping Jonathan Majors, it was all but inevitable that there were speculation that they were going to recast, which I think a lot of people wanted them just to get rid of the Kang storyline altogether. It just wasn't working anymore. So this is kind of their remedy to that, bringing in Doomsday. Doomsday will be the big bad for the next Avengers film. And I think that's a solid choice. But again, having it be Robert Downey Jr. was not one I was anticipating. The article then goes on to say the Avengers Doomsday will be directed by Joe and Anthony Russo in their own return to Marvel. So, I mean, Marvel pretty much, just from that first sentence, guys, Marvel pretty much said, hey, the new stuff ain't working. We got to bring back all the OGs. We got to bring back the old guys, the guys who have been there before. They've done it. They know what the fans want, and they do it well. And I don't think anyone, in terms of directing a film, I don't think anyone has done it better, could do it better than the Russo brothers. I think just knowing that their name is attached to the next Avengers film, I think does bring a lot of hype, rightfully so. I mean, if you look at Infinity War, they did a smashing job with it. And so, you look what they did with the last Avengers films, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I think, faith that the fandom has when it comes to the Russo brothers. Now, bringing in RDJ is just, it's icing on the cake. It states that the directing duo is on deck to helm two new Avengers movies, Doomsday, which will introduce Victor Von Doom / Dr. Doom, and Avengers Secret Wars. While Downey had said in recent interviews that he was open to returning to Marvel, fans naturally assumed he meant he would come back as Iron Man / Tony Stark, which rightfully so, that makes a lot of sense. Downey's return as the villainous Dr. Victor Von Doom comes as a massive shock to the fandom, including the ecstatic audience at Marvel's presentation at San Diego Comic-Con. Downey made a victorious appearance to Hall H on Saturday evening to reveal his return. I will say, if you guys didn't watch the full reveal for Marvel and all the things that they revealed, definitely worth it. The energy in that room, it sounds ecstatic, and just seeing people flip out when Robert Downey Jr. unveils himself to be the next big bad, I think is a moment that I think is going to live with a lot of people for a very, very long time. So, I think from that perspective, this is the exact resurgence of excitement that Marvel fandom has been needing, because it's been very on and off. It's almost felt like a toxic relationship after Endgame, because you had some projects that have done well, and it seems like after every project that does well, there's a project that does not do well, a project that just feels like luster, a project that doesn't, it feels like it's a very small piece in a very large puzzle. It feels inconsequential, and then you get moments like Deadpool and Wolverine that also just came out this weekend that I think reignites that fan base. So I think Marvel fandom, I think, is feeling a level of euphoria that we have not felt since potentially Avengers Endgame years ago. So, the return of the Russo brothers, Deadpool and Wolverine dropping, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, and all the press and stuff that they've been doing, the Hot Ones episode and all the stuff that they've been doing, the videos that they make with and about each other, I think have brought a level of unity and community, which from that perspective, like I said, that's a solid thing. I think we'll have to wait and see what happens in the future. But moving on to the rest of the article, it talks a little bit about Robert Downey Jr.'s, his first appearance and stuff like that. So we're going to get into that. It states that Downey's very first appearance as the Playboy super genius Stark came in 2008's Iron Man, which was the first installment in the interconnected Marvel Cinematic Universe devised by Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige. Over the next 11 years, Downey would reprise the role in 10 Marvel films, including Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, The Incredible Hulk, Avengers, Captain America, Civil War, that's a typo, Avengers Age of Ultron, Spider-Man Homecoming, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. Endgame featured the death of Iron Man, spoilers. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige stressed to Vanity Fair last December that he had no interest in messing with Downey's emotional exit. "We are going to keep that moment and not touch that moment again," Feige said at the moment about Iron Man's death. "We all worked very hard for many years to get to that, and we would never want to magically undo it in any way." Which I think begs the question to a lot of to fans that has been going around recently is, does this moment of Robert Downey Jr. revealing himself as Dr. Doom, does that take away from the emotional exit that was brought about with Iron Man at the end of Avengers Endgame? In some ways, I would say that it doesn't. You have to be able to detract the actor from the character. But I think for someone that's played the character for so long, that being Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man, I think it's going to be really difficult, at least at first, for fans to dissociate Robert Downey Jr. from Iron Man. And anytime you see him on screen, it's going to feel like, wait, haven't we already done this? Because again, you've watched the actor play the character for a long time. And I don't know, obviously, as you can imagine, when it comes to Avengers Doomsday, they're likely going to defeat Dr. Doom. And how is that going to feel to watch the same actor who played one of the most beloved characters play a character that's essentially trying to destroy all life, or whatever his goal is? I think that's going to be a little interesting, and that's going to be challenging. I think it's really hard to do something like this for an actor that has played a character for so long in so many iterations, so many different movies over the course of a decade, to then have that character, that same actor, come back and play a completely different villain. I don't know. I think that's going to be interesting. I think had they had Robert Downey Jr.'s death be kind of the catalyst that leads to this whole multiversal thing, and you start to see all these different versions of Robert Downey Jr. and have one of those be the evil Victor Von Doom, I think potentially that would have sat well. But yeah, I still think that even with this news, I think the MCU still is in a bit of disarray, and it's gonna, I don't know what it's gonna take, but it's gonna take something pretty big, even bigger than this, to kind of fix the story that has been created over the last couple years as an effort to get to this next Avengers film. So I think 2025 is going to be an interesting year because all of that is going to have to build into Avengers Doomsday now. And in many ways, they are kind of resetting and rewriting the history books a little bit, because now they have to kind of, anything that they had planned for, you know, the Kang Dynasty and stuff with the movies that have already been in production, all that's going to have to kind of be wiped away, or at least rewritten in a way that kind of yields towards this new story with Robert Downey Jr.'s character and his Von Doom. So again, I think, this is good, but it's gonna present some unique challenges. The article continues on by stating Downey is now returning to Marvel, but not as Iron Man. The actor has been quite open this year about his interest in coming back to the franchise. Speaking to Esquire magazine after his Oscar win for Oppenheimer, the actor was asked if he would ever return to Marvel Cinematic Universe now that he is officially an Academy Award winner. The actor didn't hesitate to answer yes. He said, "Happily, it's too integral a part of my DNA. That role chose me. And look, I always say, never ever bet against Kevin Feige. It's a losing bet. He is the house always wins." Then it then finishes by saying the Victor Von Doom news continues a huge year for the actor. His performance as Louis Strauss in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer won him an Academy Award win for Best Supporting Actor in March. Most recently, Downey was featured in the cast of Park Chan-wook's miniseries The Sympathizer on HBO, where he played CIA operative Cloud and several other roles. He earned an Emmy nomination for supporting actor in a limited series and anthology. And it would appear that the article ends there, but I want to kind of give my, a bit more of my personal opinion and kind of get, pick you guys' brain and see what you think about this whole situation. So when it comes to this situation, and this casting, this massive news that has the entire MCU, the entire comic book world talking, what do I think about it? I kind of go both ways, guys. I really do. I go both ways. Now, when I saw the news initially about this, the news was already a couple hours old. I was busy with some other stuff, and when I finally saw the news, I had a bit of a minute to let it sink in before I, decided to talk about it, because I really wanted to process the emotions. And after the initial excitement wore off and the idea that Robert Downey Jr. Was coming back, and how that emotion led to over a decade's worth of emotion that was the buildup of the original saga, and how that led to Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, thinking about all those movies, thinking about the death of Iron Man and all that stuff. After all of that was wiped away, I was able to think a little bit more clearly, and I came to the consensus that I'm on both ends of the spectrum with this. Part of me is really excited about the return of Robert Downey Jr. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I think he's at the height of his career. I think for him to come back to the MCU, knowing that he, after his Academy Award win and his critical acclaim for Oppenheimer, knowing that he could have done anything else, he could have gone anywhere else. He could have chosen pretty much at this point, he could have picked any role he wanted, and it almost would have been a shoo-in, right? The opportunities were probably lined up on his desk. For him to come back to the MCU means one of two things. Either they offered him a buttload of money, which is still probably true, or the script was really good. And I think both of those things can exist at the same time. I think they did probably offer him a very large sum of money. I think the script probably is really good. I think the fact that the Russo brothers are helming the project provides even more confidence that it will be good, that will be great even. And obviously the long-standing relationship that, Robert Downey Jr. has had with Kevin Feige over the years, I think probably played into that as well. I think there's a lot of factors playing here. So that does have me excited. It feels like the band is back together in a way. And that's going to lead to a very strong Avengers film, which I think needs a very strong villain, which I think needs a very strong actor. And so while part of me does think that they could have and should have gone with someone that was a little less notable, someone that really could kind of bring a fresh face to the MCU, I also understand them wanting to revitalize the community, build that trust again. And in order to do that, you got to have a big name, like a really big name. And I don't think there's anyone bigger in the MCU, in my opinion, than Robert Downey Jr. So I think it was a very strategic move. And I think it's one that fans are going to doubt for a little bit. But I think in the end, I think they'll come to see that Marvel they were really putting their chips in the middle of the table with this one. So I'm excited to see what they do. I'm a little skeptical though. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a part of me that feels like this is a desperate move. There's a part of me that feels like Marvel really is at the end of their rope if they had to go this route of recruiting their most notable actor from the MCU to come back and play this role, which feels like not too much long after Endgame happened. It feels like we're bringing him back and asking RDJ to play a different character, you know. And obviously he had the opportunity to say no. He could have said no, and Marvel would have had to go a different direction. Maybe they would have pulled someone else. Who knows? But obviously he was excited about the idea, and I think many of them, everyone involved, I'm sure, knew that fans were excited about the idea. So it probably seemed like a pretty sure thing. It probably seemed like a shoo-in. So, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic. I will say that. I'm cautiously optimistic about what they're doing, what they're cooking over at Marvel with the return of RDJ. And so in that realm, I think for the most part, I'm overly optimistic about things, but I am still cautious and I have questions, as many of you do. And I'm curious exactly what is happening and what are the next steps, and how are we going to get to the next big Avengers film, that being Avengers Doomsday. So yeah, I'm curious what they're going to do, but overall, I mean, I think it's an exciting time, and I think it's going to have people talking for the next couple weeks, years, months, until we get to the Avengers film. And just seeing Robert Downey's face on the big screen again, I think is exactly the cure or the remedy that Marvel needed to fix their kind of Kang Dynasty debacle. Now, me personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of the whole Kang story, but I felt like it was building to something, and I was willing to see it through and kind of see what it was building to. I think the Jonathan Majors situation was unfortunate, but I think they had the opportunity to potentially recast many other notable actors who were very talented, who could have just picked up the mantle and continued on with the story and allowed it to kind of play out and allow us to get to the next Avengers film and kind of see how it all plays out. But unfortunately, it seems like that whole storyline is just dead. It feels like that's just not happening anymore. And from that perspective, as someone that kind of wants to finish things and see how things play out, I am a little disappointed in that. But, you know, this is where we are. Marvel's having to pivot. And I think that this is probably the best pivot that they could have thought of in all the directions that they had lined up. This was probably the best one. So, you know, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. It's exciting. But I do have questions. I am a little cautious about where this goes from here. And I guess only time will tell, right? That's really what it comes down to. The announcement is there. The dust is settling. People are excited. And once that excitement continues to wear off, I think more and more questions will start to pervade in people's minds, and people start to think, what the hell does this mean? What do we do? Like, you know, but we'll see. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section about this whole situation. Are you excited about Robert Downey Jr.'s return, not as Iron Man, but as Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom, the big bad of the next Avengers film, and potentially, you know, the buildup of the next few Marvel movies? I don't know. They're going to have to build up to this somehow. So I'm curious to see what they do. But let me know what your thoughts are. Are you excited about it? If you're not, let me know why. I think this is a great opportunity for good discussion about this situation. This is something that, like, again, we're going to look back on years from now, and we're going to be in disbelief that this was ever a thing that we were talking about. Because up until this point, up until yesterday, or, you know, until the time that this was announced, this felt like a wild impossibility. It felt like it was improbable that this ever happened. So it's crazy that we're even having this discussion. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoy this kind of content, you want to see more discussion videos just like this, be sure to drop a like on this video. It greatly helps out and supports me, gets the videos shown by more people. And if you enjoy and want to see more videos like this, you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you're notified whenever I drop new videos on the channel. We drop new videos each and every week. So I'll be happy to have discussions with you about more stuff just like this. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video.